I wanted to ask you perhaps a comparison with the 1930s with respect to two institutions or two groups, shall we say. One is the religious institutions of the day here in the U.S. vis-a-vis religious institutions, whether they be in 1930s Germany or in the communist era of Eastern Europe. And the other institution, which is, I suppose, specifically relevant to the fascist era, is business. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how you would compare and contrast. I tend to think that on both of those scores, what we have today is quite a bit more hopeful, but I am interested to hear your comments.
I think I agree with you. The situations. I mean, my immediate response whenever I get a question like that is to talk about all the ways the 1930s are like today. But I'm going to restrain that impulse, and I'm going to answer your question straight up because I think you're right. So one of the things which is striking about business and National Socialism, it's not that business brought the National Socialists to power. That's not really true. It's not that the businessmen were for the most part, Nazis. They were generally men of the right, and they did generally partake in the idea that we'll stay on top of this transition. We'll be able to manage this person. But then once they couldn't, then strikingly, they found ways to adapt, and they found ways to profit. I mean, two of the most obvious are taking over Jewish firms and property. Right? We haven't gotten, well, we have in some cases, but when you get to the point where the government starts distributing property from one place to another, it's hard for certain businessmen to resist that. Another even more striking example are the concentration camps, which were business operations. Sometimes, Auschwitz was a place of, among many other things, it was a site of cheap labor, which important German companies found irresistible. So with religion, I'm going to make a slightly different point, which is that I think there's a discussion always about whether Christianity is a thing you have or Christianity is a set of actions that you perform, let's say. And in this country, I agree with you that it's better, but in this country there is also the trap, very profoundly and visibly so, of saying Christianity is the thing that we are, rather than Christianity is something that you do. There are relatively few examples in Germany itself. Bonhoeffer is the most famous. There are very few examples in Germany itself of Christians saying Christianity is a thing that we do, right? Thus far, it looks a little bit better here on both fronts. With business here, the interesting thing here is that businesses, let me make another point here about libertarianism, okay? Because there's an idea in America. I'm agreeing with you that it's not as bad, okay? But I can't resist ending on a negative note. There's an idea in America which says freedom is about making it to the top, right? And that's an idea that people find very attractive, even when in other ways they might think that they're on the left, or they might think they're progressive or new or whatever. But that idea that freedom means making it to the top, that's not that many intellectual steps away from social Darwinism, and indeed National Socialism. So when Hitler talked to businessmen, what he said was, you guys have made it to the top. The whole world should be like that. It should just be survival of the fittest, right? That's the language that he spoke to them. I guess what I would suggest now a bit normatively to American business is that, yeah, a lot of firms are doing an awful lot of good things. And there are a lot of really smart, and for that matter, wealthy people who are on the right side of all of this. But we are going to need to have a language which is not a libertarian language of we're free because we made it to the top. That's not going to be enough.